Hello and welcome to another wonderful discussion from Lord Vaskin in the wonderful world of chemistry. So, I'm going to talk to you about, moles today. And when I'm talking about the mole, I'm not talking about the growth that may appear on your back, ear, or somewhere on your skin. Or I'm not talking about the furry little creature. Instead, I am talking about a number. That number, which represents a mole, is Avogadro's number. So, Avogadro. If I remember just how to spell it right. Avogadro's number. This number is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd. Never forget that. That is one of the key components of chemistry. All higher chemistry requires understanding of moles and Avogadro's number. It is essential to doing chemistry. And so, what I'm going to do is teach you the basics of the mole road. Now, I'm going to draw something that looks like the flux capacitor real quick. So, we're going to have a region up here, and then I'm going to have actually an arrow go from here to here. Let's make this one's tail longer. A region here, something going over here, and then coming back. Bubble. Something going over here, and then coming back. Bubble. Now, think of this, rather than like the flux capacitor, because that's what it looks like, is, well, kind of, my drawing's kind of bad, but just ignore that. Think of it as a planning your flights. So I live in the middle of nowhere, South Dakota. Now let's call that the mass of something. So I'm going to call this the mass of the compound. And let's say this is where I live in South Dakota. Now I want to figure out how to get to the volume of gas. This of course has to be at STP, which is standard temperature and pressure. So standard temperature is always 273 degrees Kelvin, must be Kelvin, not Celsius, and especially not Fahrenheit. And pressure, which is 1 atmosphere. And so, I'm also going to want to plan a trip for when I get done at the volume of gas. I want to get to the number of atoms. So, let's say that the volume of gas, this is in Texas. So, we have South Dakota, we have Texas, and over here, let's say I want to go to San Francisco, so we have California. So I want to plan a trip to get to all of these points. Well, where is my hub? Well, South Dakota only flies, where I am in South Dakota, flies to only 3 airports, I believe. One of which is Colorado. And so the Colorado airport we're going to call moles. Now, chemists have a wonderful way of shorthanding the term moles. Are you ready for this? It's pretty short in comparison to the actual word. It's M-O-L. I know, that's awesome. So, in order to get from massive compound to moles, or if you wanted to return flight, to go back, you simply divide by the molecular weight. And the molecular weight can be found by, say, looking at our periodic table. I've already written up NaCl and figured out its molecular weight. So if you look at the compound Na, the molecular weight is written at the bottom of the square in that periodic table. Now chlorine is right over here. And so sodium, we get 29.99, which I rounded off to 23. Chlorine, we get 35.45, which I rounded off to 35.5. And so when you add them together, you get 58.5 as a rough estimate. And so that is in terms of grams per mole. Now, when we're up here, we're in terms of grams. So we want to cancel it out. So if we divide by grams per mole, then what happens is grams cancels out and moles stays, and moles is moved up to the top because you're dividing by a division and fraction math, right? No one really likes fractions. I never did. But in order to go back from moles to massive compound, you would multiply, because you're in terms of moles, and then if you multiply by grams per mole, then moles cancels out and grams stays. So you would multiply by the molecular weight. I'm just going to shorten it to MW for you. So you get to moles. You're at the hub. And now you're about to transfer over in flights. The transfer over in flights is simply by another math sequence. To get from moles to volume of gas at STP, we simply multiply by 22.4 liters per mole. And if you notice, you're in moles, you're going to liters. So if you have moles and dividing by moles, moles cancels out. So that works really nicely. Now if you're going back, you simply divide by 22.4 liters per mole. Simple and beautiful. Okay, so we're going to divide by 22.4 liters per mole to get back to Colorado so we can get our transfer flight. Though I know that you can probably get flights from Texas to California probably really easily, but I like Colorado and I want to take a skiing break when I get there. So anyway, we want to get to number of atoms. So here's how we do this part. To get to the number of atoms, and we're in moles, we simply multiply by the Avogadro's number, which is 6.02 times 10 to the 23rd, which is already written nice and neatly up here for you. And now if you are in number of atoms, you simply divide by Avogadro's number, and you will get back to moles. Avogadro's number doesn't necessarily have units, but in most math equations, you will see Avogadro's number does have one type of unit, and that will be, I'd say most commonly I see the moles to the -1, and that will put you in terms of atoms. Sometimes they will put atoms, and that will be then times moles to the -1, so it's atoms over moles. But more often than not, you'll just see negative moles. Just know it puts you in terms of the number of atoms. And so this is just the first video on the mole. The next part, I'm going to take you on the mole road to bring you across an equation. And I'm going to use the wonderful example that I used in my balancing reactions, and this is just a cliffhanger for you, so you watch the next video. I'm going to look at AlCl3 plus H2 solid gas will react to form Al solid plus HCl. Of course, there's 6 of this, there's 3 of this, there's 2 of this, and there's 2 of this. So once the prefixes are actually put in front of the numbers, but I didn't leave space for that because I'm almost out of room over here, you will get to see how to work through that equation to get the math done. So stay tuned as we move into the next video.